This June 27th, 2012 City Commission meeting will come to order. Madam City Manager.
Will you please stand and join me in the invocation?
Pledge.
Generous Father, we give thanks for this community, its committed leaders, and the opportunity to serve our citizens. We are grateful for your many gifts, and we ask that you direct our path as we seek innovative ways to serve our community in bold and meaningful ways. Grant us the vision to appropriately estimate our needs and allocate our resources accordingly. May all we do lift our community and be to your honor and glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Any agenda modifications?
We don't have any agenda mods today, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so we're now on presentations. This is going to be good. As soon as Sandra bring me what I'm supposed to. First of all, let me acknowledge that I want to recognize a group of young ladies. I hope there they are. They're still here. They're waving back there. These are the divas. Stand up, divas. These are I know you're wondering what DIVA stand for, so hang in there. Determined individuals vying for achievement in society. And this group is led by Monica Horton and Christique Henry. Where are you, Christique? Raise your hand. Where's Monica? All right. We just want to welcome these young ladies here to view our City Commission meeting. I know that they're going to stay through the whole meeting, right? Yeah, okay. But anyway, we want to welcome you here. I hope you have an educational opportunity here while you're with us today. So welcome, and please feel free to walk around if you want, okay? Thank you very much. Have a seat. Oh, no, Christique said you can't walk around. All right. Wow, okay. This is a great day for Tallahassee. I mean, it really, hey, Debbie. This is a great day for Tallahassee, and I have the privilege of making a very, very exciting announcement. But before I do that, I'd like to invite all the city commissioners, appointed officials, please join me at the podium right now. Come on. We're also honored to have several former commissioners, elected officials, citizens, advisory committee members, mayor, this mayor, Mayor Dot Emmon Johnson, Mayor Ford, Commissioner, Mayor. Please join us at the podium. Rob McGarrah, Rick, oh, where's Rick? Where's the Rick Meister? Come on up here, Reese. Reese Gold. Who? David, oh, where's David? David Byrne. And if all y'all want to come up, y'all can. Because this is one of those times, where we can have as many as we want. Say, I'm going to call you in a minute, Barry. Okay. And last but Sam, come on up here, Sam. Sam was head of the utilities before. Come on up, please. Come over here. Some of you can come over here. Any other utility workers in the room? Come on. If you're associated with our electric utility, wait a minute, I guess all you're going to say that because you pay electric bills, right? Okay. Okay. That doesn't qualify you for this group, however, okay? All right. Well, and last but not least, I want to introduce a special guest today, Barry Moline, Executive Director of the Florida Municipal Electric Association. Mr. Moline is here on behalf of the American Public Power Association, which includes more than 2,000 municipal utilities nationwide. With an illustrious 25-year career in the energy industry, Mr. Moline has worked at APPA and the U.S. Department of Energy. He currently represents Florida's 34 publicly owned electric utilities before the legislature and regulatory agencies. Barry, it's yours. I've known Mr. Moline for a few years. We work together a lot. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, I didn't think I'd have all you standing behind me. I'm not sure which way I should stand. Well, I'm here to present the EF Scattergood System Achievement Award, and when you hear that name, you think, what's that? Generally, in the American Public Power Association, the National Association of all the municipal electric utilities, that is the award that is given to the best utility in the country, the utility that has been recognized for that year as the one that has stood out the most of all the other 2,000 municipal utilities. Scattergood, EF Scattergood, was the general manager of the Los Angeles utility, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, back in 1947, and he was involved in establishing the American Public Power Association. Now, this is not a self-nominated award. This wasn't an award that the city said, hey, there's an award out there, let's go get it. The city was nominated. They were nominated by the Florida Municipal Electric Association, and we looked around Florida and we were trying to see who was achieving extraordinary accomplishments, and Tallahassee just stood out among the 34 municipal utilities. Now, this isn't on TV or anything, so no one will see that. None of the other members will see that. Hopefully it'll just stay local.
No, we wanted to go national, man.
But there are a variety of reasons why the city received this award. And I'm just going to run through a few of them. There's the Good Neighbor program, the Neighborhood Reach program. And actually, interestingly about the Neighborhood Reach program, the city won a second award at the American Public Power Association conference, the Energy Innovator Award, for that specific program. And we'll present that award as well. The wide variety of energy services programs, the Energy Loan Program. And I'll tell you that program helped me buy a solar water heater for my house, made it a lot easier to buy that water heater almost 10 years ago. And I never realized how much teenage girls use hot water until I got that thing. And they would stand in the shower for half an hour at a time. I don't worry anymore with that solar water heater. And it's not just those programs that reach out to the community, it's also what you don't see behind the scenes. The repowering of the Arva Hopkins power plant, the generating station, has also been recognized nationally as one of the most efficient power plants, or repowering. They changed the power plant to be much more efficient. And the smart grid. The city of Tallahassee is a national leader and the first integrated utility, that is electric, natural gas, and water, to pull it all together. The first integrated utility, smart grid utility. And of course that allows for expanded customer choice to match customer lifestyles, allows for the nights and weekends option. Just saying the words smart grid, people don't really know what that means, but it skips over an incredible amount of effort on behalf of this entire city operation. And I'll tell you that many utilities that have implemented the hardware of smart grid have struggled with coordinating the customer service component and the information technology component and getting all the departments on the same page. You may think that's no big deal, but it's really a huge deal. It's really hard to coordinate all these people together, and the city of Tallahassee did it right. So I could go on and on, but there's something else. You know, back in 1999, the city considered selling this electric utility. And at the time, not a lot of people in our town recognized the value that this utility brings to the city. And in the process of that community-wide discussion, we learned how the utility is woven into so many things that happen around this town. We learned how the financial transfer from the electric utility contributes to the constant improvement of our community. And it wasn't just a single point in time that you could say, aha, that was the moment that we realized the value of this utility. It was really a steady set of good decisions, one after another, that built upon each other. And every city commissioner, every employee along the way, everybody standing on each other's shoulders made all those good decisions to get to where we are today. So now what we see is an organization that is integrated into the fabric of the Tallahassee community. It listens, it's flexible, it's responsive to Tallahassee's needs, not those of anywhere else. It's innovative, it reinvests in our community in places like the Truesdale Pool and Gymnastics Center and Jack McLean Park. And I think of the value of this utility every time I drive down 90, Mahan Drive, heading toward the interstate, and I remember the lengthy community discussions that we had about rerouting a transmission line. I was hoping you'd be here, Debbie. And the decision to place parts of that line out of sight and the additional cost, the significant additional cost of millions of dollars. And I'll tell you that I frequently get calls from cities that are served by private utilities, and they say, this investor-owned utility wants to put a transmission line right through our town, right down the middle of downtown. And that's going to lower our property values. And that didn't happen here. It was just the opposite. City leaders listened and they made a decision that reflected our community values. And they asked the question, what do we want our community to look like? And then they took the right action. So that's why APPA recognized the city of Tallahassee with the EF Scattergood Award. All these things wrapped up together. Some are tangible and some are difficult to quantify. It's a community philosophy. It exists here in Tallahassee, and you are living it and you are leading it. And Mayor Marks, let's see, we'll get that award passed up. This is like a football. Oh, it's right here. Wow. I present, let's see, let's do the Innovator Award. This is the Energy Innovator Award for the Neighborhood Reach program. But the pièce de résistance is the EF Scattergood System Achievement Award, the best utility in the country for 2012. I present to you and all your employees.
Presented to these folks, really.
Congratulations.
Well, I'm beaming. I truly am. Those of you who know me know that I've been involved with utility regulation since, for quite a while, actually since 1979, when I got appointed to the Florida Public Service Commission by then Governor Bob Graham. And I've seen a lot of utility operations, both investor-owned and both publicly owned. I've had interaction with a number of utility operators, the presidents, the executive directors, and a lot of for a long time. Florida Power and Light, TECO, you name it, public utilities as well. And I couldn't be more proud than today to be associated with this utility. Because I know I've seen them operate. I've seen them do some things that really were really remarkable. So it really, in a way, it doesn't surprise me that they got this award. It surprised me that it took so long to get it. But they're really just really good people working for the citizens of our community without hesitation. I mean, the crews that go out and put up the lines, the crews that go out there after a hurricane. These are the kind of people we have in our community, and we got a lot of trees too, but they're ready. They're out there. And I couldn't be more proud today than I am as mayor of this city of Tallahassee than I am today, because it's just wonderful to know that your electric utility is recognized in this manner. We have lowest rates. We have low rates. You know, we offer all kinds of services. We are a leader in smart technology. We are just really very, very good. And I want to thank my fellow commissioners, Debbie. She was a part of this. Commissioner Cass is not here. Commissioner Muschin, Commissioner Gillum, all were a part of, and Mayor Emmett Cruz, Mayor Ford, all these folks in a way were a part of the genesis of the beginning, because they kept this electric utility going. They were a part of it. And so that's why we asked them to come back today. And the staff, the city manager, city attorney, city clerk, our auditor. But more importantly, again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the individuals that work so hard in our electric utility department, headed by Rob McGarrett. Raise your hand, Rob. Where are you? Rob McGarrett. Got to give a little credit to Kevin.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
What's Kevin Hill? Kevin Wells. Kevin Wells was his predecessor. Got to give a little credit to Kevin, because he was a part of this.
Now head of the Lincoln Electric Utility,
Right,
Lincoln,
in
Nebraska.
Lincoln, Nebraska. And then David Byrne.
Sam Bell is also here.
Huh?
Sam Bell is also here.
Oh, yes, Sam Bell. I didn't say Sam Bell, predecessor, operated this utility as well. Thanks, Sam. I've known Sam for quite a while. All of us have been involved in this industry, know each other through some means or another for a long, long time. David Byrne, Reese Gold, who I had to convince that the smart grid system was the right thing to do, way back there. It took me a bit. I'll tell you that story one day. And the guy that really pulls all, they're laughing now, but it took me a while to convince them that that was the right thing to do. And then there's one guy that pulls them all together. And he really, really leads them very, very well. And that's Ricardo Fernandez.
Ricardo.
Ricardo. I could go on and on, but I won't, unless you want me to. No. But really, this is truly a remarkable day, a great day for the city of Tallahassee. And I want to thank these folks. Oh, come here, please. This Commissioner Miller actually went to Seattle to accept an award, so I know she wants to say something.
And that's why I'm still up here. I actually was able to go out to the award ceremony because of my position as chair of the Commission's Target Issue Committee on Energy and the Environment. And the main thing that I realized by being there was that this award is awarded by peers. 2,000 utilities all over the United States belong to the American Public Power Association. They all can vie for this award. They all are in the mix. But this is an award by the peers of this organization, saying you are doing a phenomenal job. Our utility is the 25th largest public power organization in the country. It's a major, major operation. And one of the things that I was impressed by when I first came and started to do tours around town of various city facilities, sitting in the room with these people, you might as well be in a board meeting of a national company. I mean, this is a business. It is tight. It is run by the business. But the difference in this business is that they are also working to try to figure out how to convince people to buy less of their product, how to make it easier for them to buy less of their product. And that's what you get when you get a public power organization as opposed to a private. You get to have input on whether those power lines go down the middle of Highway 90. You get to have input about whether they put infrastructure in your neighborhood. You, the citizens of Tallahassee, own this utility. And and they are responsible to you through your commission. So just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that thing about the peers, because that is really, really what makes this special. To me, this is equal to being the #1 parks in the United States, to being the #1 livable city in the United States. This goes on the wall right next to those awards, and I thank every single person who works in electric utility and other utilities supporting gas and water that have gone into making this possible. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for being here and witnessing this really remarkable night for us. And I want to thank those of you who work in the electric utility. You are heroes. You've done a great job. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a reception. When we break at 5 p.m., we do have a celebration reception, so please join us for that reception.
Everybody, please join us for that, okay? When we go on break, all right? Thank you so much. You gonna take it? You gonna take it from me?
I'm sorry. We'll keep it for you.
All right. Well, we got some others things we want to talk about with Chief Dick. Where is she? Come on. Come on up here, Chief Dick. Please join me at the podium. This is very significant. This is our chief. This is the person that runs our fire department. And she's pretty funny, too, at times, if you ever see her. I'm pleased to present this certificate on behalf of the National Fire Academy for your participation in the Executive Fire Officer Program. The Executive Fire Officer Program is an initiative of the U.S. Fire Academy and the National Fire Academy, designed to provide senior officers with a broad perspective on various facets of fire and emergency administration services. The EFOP curriculum and research framework examines how senior authority figures can exercise leadership when dealing with difficult, adaptive problems within their jurisdiction. The EFOP spans a 4-year period and consists of 4 core courses. Each course is 2 weeks. EFOP participants enhance their professional development through a unique series of 4 resident, graduate, upper-level, college-equivalent courses in length, followed by the completion of an applied research project for each course. A certificate of completion for the entire EFOP is awarded only after the successful completion of the final exam, a final applied research project. And Chief, you've successfully done it, huh? They tell me. Therefore, on behalf of the City of Tallahassee and as your mayor, we present you this certificate. We thank you. We really do thank you, Cindy, for doing such a wonderful job for the people of this community. We just really, really appreciate you. I think it's down here. Where's the certificate?
You can't fit golf clubs in there, Mr. Mayor.
There it is. It says, in recognition of successful completion of the requisite courses of study and applied research projects, the National Fire Academy, under the authority granted by the 111th Congress of the United States of America, and on recommendation of the faculty, confers the title of Executive Fire Officer. How about that? Upon Cynthia E. Dick, all of our honors, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto are pertaining, awarded the 6th day of April, 2012. We're a little bit late, but nevertheless, it's yours. Chief.
Okay, listen. I know it's not appropriate to brag, but if I don't add this part, my mother will rush the podium and say it herself.
Go ahead. There she is.
There she is. Sit down, Mom. I'm going to say it.
Have her come on up. Come on up, Mom.
Oh, here she goes. Because she said to me, "Did you tell the mayor this?" And I said, "No." "Well, you better." So, this is my mother. I'm more afraid of her than anybody else in the room, so I'm going to tell the mayor that there have been about 3,100 graduates of this program internationally, and of the 3,100, there have been 9 to graduate with a perfect 4.0, and I'm the 9th, and the only woman, and the only Floridian. Woo! And I want to thank the manager and thank the commission, the appointed officials, and all my mentors and supporters here in the city for recognizing me. You know, it's an honor to be recognized by this prestigious academy. It's an honor to be recognized by my peers, but it's a much greater honor to be recognized by my city family, where I've spent my entire adult life, and it means a lot to me. But it cannot go without saying that nothing that I've achieved ever have I achieved on my own. If it wasn't for the beginning here, the work ethic, and just the good life lessons instilled upon me by my parents, the many, many, many mentors, previous mentors, existing mentors in the city government, in the fire department, in schools. Without this magnificent staff back here, all these people in the blue shirts, stand up. Because if I had to run around and fix their mistakes all the time, I couldn't concentrate on anything else. They make it where I never have to do that. They're fantastic. And without my family, I couldn't have done any of it. So takes a village, right? So thanks to the village. Thank you for recognizing me.
All right, next item.
Next item would be item number 8, citizen input on agenda items.
We have none, Mayor.
All right, next item.
The next item would be consent, Mr. Mayor.
Madam City Manager, Mr. Mayor, could I have item 9.06 polled just for quick discussion?
906, pull for a quick discussion, approval of planning commission appointment. We'll pull that from the consent.
Thank you.
Can we move the
Move
rest?
consent.
Second.
Properly moved in second. All in favor of consent with the exception of 9.06, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Commissioner?
I'm trying to, and I apologize, it has more to do with process than it may be me, but there are certain, I know, boards that are appointed by the mayor, and there are certain boards that originate through the commission, the mayor approves, and then they come back to us. This is one of those, and I'm sure that Barbara Walker is clearly by her resume, she's bright, she's intelligent, she's an attorney, but the Planning Commission is an extremely important commission we have, and I'm looking through the resume, and I'm concerned about not having any background in planning or in, from a legal standpoint, in anything that has to do with development or growth management. And I guess I'm trying to see if there's any other applicants that were considered, or, I mean, I don't know if anybody looked through the resumes, but this particular one stood out. Not that I have any questions about who she is, because she seems very qualified and capable, but from a background standpoint, I was concerned. It may just be me, so.
Well, you know, in all the appointments, I don't necessarily look and see if there's any specific relationship to the organization. I try and even it out as much as I possibly can, but sometimes you have to have individuals on there who can give a different perspective. My suspicion is this is the reason why I asked for Barbara Walker to, I don't recall specifically, because I get a lot of these across my desk. I mean, if you have some concerns about her, as you've indicated, Commissioner, you know, I'll take another look at it, but I don't know of any reason why she would not be qualified for the position. Yes.
Mayor, having sat on the Planning Commission, I know that, and then having just gone through the comp plan amendments, this body depends highly on the expertise of the Planning Commission to give us recommendations. I would say probably more so than any other board that we have. That is why I agree with Commissioner Ziffer on this. I didn't have the opportunity to see the only agenda attachment here is the one for Ms. Walters, and there are no others. I want to know who else applied. This has to do with process. I know you all established a policy in the past that said that the mayor appoints these folks and that we just add consensus, but I really would like to see us have in something like these committees, we should have these things distributed to us. All the resumes of people or the applications of the people who have applied should be distributed to us for feedback, and also notice that you're looking for an appointment for that person, so that if we have others that we might think might be interested who, I mean, how are we supposed to encourage people to apply if we don't even know if the position's open or whatever? So 2 process changes that we can pursue at another time. That's not the issue on the table. But at this point, I'd really like to defer this if possible and basically have a chance to look at the resumes and the applications from the other people that applied.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
What's the
Commissioner
motion?
My motion is to defer this till the next meeting and then discuss it
Yeah.
at that point.
Commissioner?
Well, I do know Barbara, and, she's a smart woman, an attorney, and I haven't generally had the litmus of having the individuals that we appoint to that committee have a planning expertise background. What I have felt to be important in appointments to the Planning Commission or any commission are people who are genuinely concerned about the growth and future development of the city. So I guess, a little surprising because we don't generally pull these at this point, and I in some way feel a little obligated in defense of Attorney Walker and her reputation and her experience to at least speak up for the quality of this applicant. Could the maker of the motion clarify what process you would recommend coming back? Would there be a scoring process, or what do you suggest?
I think it's more actually on the lines of input from the commission. I think that it's important for us to know that we're looking to fill this position, first of all. Second of all, okay, now we do know, but it would have been helpful to know earlier. Also, who else has applied, so that we're in the position of having to basically validate the mayor's choice, but how can we do that if we don't have any information on what the other choices were? I know that our fellow government across the street has a different process for how they appoint county appointees. And I don't really want to get into the pros and cons, and certainly mean absolutely no negative against Ms. Walters. That's not my intention. What I meant in terms of some experience in planning expertise is not necessarily they have to have a planning degree, but that they need to be able to follow the conversation. And that results in a longer meeting. If you have someone that hasn't been involved in the development process in any way, it results in the staff having to basically spend quite a bit of time on explanation to that person, while the other commissioners basically sit there and, may do whatever they do, read their email. But that's my main point. This is a good place to, since Commissioner Ziffer brought this up, it's a good place to insert it, and my concerns about the appointment process in general, but specifically I'm concerned about the Planning Commission because we are so dependent on them to vet issues related to land development for us.
Yes.
Could I suggest maybe that we not make a motion on this and have the mayor pull the nomination and allow the circulation of those who applied for the position so that we can provide some input back to the office?
Commissioner
Yes.
Mushkin?
Well, the only thing I was going to say, I would tend to agree with Commissioner Gillum. I don't know that any kind of expertise as a planner is a prerequisite. In fact, in some respects, it's a bad thing. And I had the bizarre experience, I think Commissioner Miller and I did, of one of these current members showing up at our target issue committee and lobbying us on something that the Planning Commission had done. So the only thing that would be a little bit more helpful, and I kind of defer, this is the mayor's appointment, but all we really have here is kind of a one-page application with no other information. So it would be a little useful to get a little bit more, particularly on the Planning Commission, as to, kind of why, your thoughts on why this person is the right person. And my general thought on the Planning Commission is more a sense of balance and reasonableness than any kind of, pre-requirement. So whatever that's worth.
Well, of course, I don't think that you necessarily have to have any expertise as a planner, because we need to balance the thought process on these boards, and I take that into consideration. I take the demographics and the situation under the circumstances. And my assumption, quite frankly, is when somebody applies, they want to serve the public. And because we don't get a lot of applications sometimes on these appointments. And I look more, quite frankly, to those who really are willing to serve the public. And Ms. Walker has expressed a desire to serve the public. I think she's got a law degree. She's bright enough to understand and pick up what the plan. That's not rocket science at the Planning Commission. It's something that we all have to get involved with. I know I have to. I don't have a planning degree. I just think she's qualified to do that. But if you all want me, if there's a majority, if the majority of this commission wants to deny her the appointment, let's do that. Let's just sit straight up. If that's what you want to do. If that's not what you want to do, let me know what you want to do. But I'm in favor of appointing her.
Mayor, I don't think the intention here is to deny her the appointment. Also, I have to basically respond to your comment that this was not rocket science. I've served on a million citizens committees, and a lot of time you can do some reading ahead of time. You can show up and you can have an opinion. In this particular case, there is some level of rocket science to it. I'm not sure if any of you have served on the Planning Commission, but they are the ones who get down deep, 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 deep into the planning issues, these ordinances that we get, and then we look and say, well, what did the Planning Commission say about this? We don't have to get down deep in those things to the level they do because of who they are. I never said that I thought they should all have a planning degree. I don't think that they should. I think that they should have a very diverse background. I just want them to be able to contribute to the conversation and not feel overwhelmed. It takes approximately 4 to 5 hours to prepare for a Planning Commission meeting. You have quite a bit of stuff to read. It's legalese in the sense that it's comprehensive planning, and there is an element of science to it. If someone's been in the development process, they're used to it. I mean, we need all aspects of that, but this, and I appreciate folks' willingness to serve. Like I said, I don't really know that much about Ms. Walters because all I see here is just, I don't have her resume. I just have the application. And I think that there are a lot of committees we have where people who are willing to serve might be a good fit. I am just not at the point right now where I'm convinced that that's where we are with this particular applicant for this particular body.
You know, I don't have a problem. I agree with the deferral. I understand what you're saying, and I will agree with the deferral at this point in time. I will take a look at it and see whether or not her qualifications are such. You can look at everything you want to, and then I will, reconvene. I'll take your suggestions. I have no problems with that at all as who you think should be appointed to the commission, but I will make the final decision. Okay?
Since I started this, I'm not really questioning probably where I started her credentials. It more has to do with process. And this commission, the city, has many, many, many commissions and boards and such that we appoint. And there are only a few, I think it's 10, 11, or 12, that go through this commission. And the final decision is this commission on our vote. And it would be helpful for me if I had seen if there were other applicants or what the other applicants were, so that at least I can get a better judge that clearly Ms. Walker is, because of her legal background, because of clearly, I didn't go through law school and survive that. Clearly, she's a person that understands how to read documents and is probably very good at preparing for meetings. But it would be helpful if I just saw what other applicants were there. And
Sure.
were there better. And maybe, so this isn't really about her. This is a process. And I'm sorry because I apologize to her, and I really do. But I don't quite know how to get out of it at this point, other than to say, if we can move this to the next meeting and then maybe circulate some resumes if there are others, and then come back.
You're absolutely correct. The final decision is, when I said final decision as to the recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Is mine. But you're right, the final decision is a vote, otherwise it wouldn't be here. Commissioner Gillum.
Well, I think we are in agreement about pulling this back at this meeting and allowing the other resumes to be circulated amongst the commission. Ultimately, a recommendation will come forward from the mayor's office, and we'll have to vote it up or down. I, frankly, am prepared. I don't see Barbara here, but her boss So I just walked into the room. But I'm fine with seeing this go to the next meeting and letting the commissioners weigh in on the resumes that have been received. Now, the only other thing that I'd say, of all the boards that or applicants that have come up for a board appointment from this group, the Planning Commission has probably been the most active. I mean, there are folks from a range of positions throughout this community who apply for it. So I definitely don't think there's been any oversight in at least selecting a nominee who possesses the qualifications from a knowledge base, cares about the community, and I think is here prepared to serve.
Please be mindful that I do look at demographics on every appointment that I make. I look at the demographics to see if they fit our community, and I will continue to do that. Okay?
Yep, and I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll defer it. Let's go on to the next item.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, before we go on, I want to recognize, I've seen a few more people come in that were wanting to be here for our celebration. Jason Stamm is here with our Citizens Advisory Committee.
Yep.
Ben Crump, who is the chair of our Utility Citizens Advisory Committee, is here. Will you all stand and raise your hand? Former Commissioner and former Mayor Jack McLean is here. And former Commissioner and former Mayor Scott Maddox is here.
Scott Maddox.
We'll recognize these folks more when we do the reception. We're doing the reception at 5 p.m. Okay, the next item, Mr. Mayor, is item point 13.01, which is a discussion of revision to the Temporary Economic Emergency Concurrency Relief Agreement for Phase 2 of the Summit East Subdivision. And Commissioners, this item is a request to extend one of the deadlines in the Summit East Concurrency Agreement by 1 year. The particular deadline relates to infrastructure improvements, and it is the only change to the current agreement. All other requirements would still apply. Karen is going to just give you a little bit of information. I think you already have some sense of this request, but we want you to be really clear on where we're going with this one.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Manager. You may remember that the Summit East Concurrency Reduction Agreement was a little bit unique in that it applied to a 14-lot subdivision rather than a single development site. So it was a little bit unique. And as part of the agreement, it was stipulated that they would need to have building permits for every lot in that 14-lot subdivision by December 8th of 2015, and COs on each lot by 2016. And this agreement, as the manager mentioned, doesn't extend any of those deadlines. The agreement also required a number of green building improvements and other things that typically go into these types of agreements. And then it also had some other milestones to make sure that development occurred in the short term to get jobs, out there and get shovels in the ground. And those improvements were primarily infrastructure related, and they had timeframes associated with each one. The developer has met all of those milestones as well, with the exception of one that's the subject of this extension request before you tonight. And what that is there's some remaining roadway to be built to serve the 4 lots on the southeasternmost part of the development. So it's that connector roadway and a cul-de-sac and the stormwater pond to serve those 4 lots. And they're requesting an additional year so that it would be built by April 2014 instead of April 2013. And that's the main point of the agreement. That's the only deadline that's proposed to be extended. We're recommending approval of it primarily because there's a lot of development that's already going on this site. When you drive out there, there's Megas, there's Auto Owners Insurance, there's First American Title, and then all the other infrastructure work that has been completed to date. So we felt that the intent of the concurrency relief program had been met. And then also from the environmental standpoint, we didn't see any point in having those lots cleared when they have 5 office lots that are primed for development now and 6 retail that are ready to go already. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner.
Having been out there recently a couple of times and seen all the construction, I will move the item because clearly the developer's making a strong effort.
Properly moved in second. He is really doing a remarkable job out there, and this is an easy one to take care of. Anybody else?
Well,
Yeah, go right ahead.
and maybe, like Commissioner Katz when he said he was entering his contrarian phase. I mean, I've never liked this program. I didn't like it when we did what we did here because the whole idea was we were going to, basically subsidize people to get money out right then during the recession. And so, well, we spread this out over 5 years, and now we're going to spread it another year, and the whole purpose was to get the money out. So I'll be the token no vote on this.
Okay, Commissioner?
I wanted to point out that when I looked at this, well, first of all, I don't think we're changing the 5-year horizon, correct?
That's correct.
The thing that really concerned me is that there are, what does it say, 5 unsold office lots and 6 unsold retail lots that are still there. And we can force the construction, but we can't force the market. And what this would mean if we held them to the timeline they have currently is that they're going to go ahead and clear 4 more lots that are going to sit out of natural area, so to speak, urban forest type. That's fine where it is. It's holding its runoff. It's doing its little undeveloped job out there. And it wasn't important enough to me that they clear all that, just hold them to the timeline. Because if it's probably just going to sit there anyway and erode, which is even worse. So that's why I'm supporting this motion.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
It passes 4-1. Next item.
The next item is item number 13.02. Approval of resolution number 12-R-53, adopting an economic development rate pilot program. And Commissioners, this item is a resolution that creates a economic development electric rate pilot program. You are very familiar with this project and the discussion that we've had previously about it. You have indicated that you concur. We did at a previous meeting indicate to you that we would be coming back with a resolution on the agenda, and it's my understanding that, Jim, what do we need to do? We're going to approve the...
Yeah, you won't be able to vote on this item until after the public hearing on item 15.05. That's the ordinance that actually authorizes the program. So
the resolution.
you
But
can
let me ask...
discuss it now.
Yeah. Let me ask Reese Gold if he would just quickly remind the public what this rate is.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Manager, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. As we discussed at the last commission meeting, this is a rate that we've been working on for some months, really with the idea to stimulate the local economy, add new jobs, really enhance the financial solvency of the community. And this rate does that, but it also adds to the financial stability of the electric utility. Anytime you have the kind of assets that we have, the kind of plant that you might build to meet the needs of your customers, you always build it a little more than you need. I use the term that you build it in a lumpy fashion. So you build more than you need, you have some headroom. This program actually takes advantage of that. It will, by encouraging new businesses to come to our town or encouraging existing businesses to expand and create new jobs, we're able to get revenue for assets that we would not have otherwise received, and we're also able to add new jobs to our community. So very specifically, we're targeting 3 groups or 3 different kinds of customers. A new customer with a large load of 200 kW or more, and just as a reference, that we only have several hundred customers of that size on our system today. So we have 114,000 customers. You have to be a very large, sizable customer to meet that load. So we're talking about sizable customers that would represent meaningful jobs. So if you locate in Tallahassee, and this is a major reason why you did that, you would be eligible, and have 10 new jobs at least, you would be eligible for a discount over a declining period of time. So it's a 5-year discount. The discount begins at 20% of the non-fuel revenues, which is about half of what the bill would be. And it would decline by 5% each year through year 5 to 0%. You could also, and we actually added a provision based on comments from our Citizens Advisory Committee. We vetted this with them, sought their feedback, and they were very interested in encouraging customers to locate in vacant buildings notably kind of like big box buildings that have been vacant and may sit as eyesores in parts of our community. So we added that provision. We thought it made a lot of sense. It worked for the utility, and it definitely seems to work for the economic development. So as opposed to new brick and mortar, customers could locate in those buildings as long as they've been vacant for 6 months. And then finally, a third category, and this was a piece that came out of a discussion we had with the Economic Development Council, was that existing customers, so are people that are in town today that are hearing this message, if they wanted to expand their business, and this was a major driver for them to do that, if they expanded by 100 kW and had an aggregate load of at least 200 kW, so still a sizable load, added new jobs, they would also be eligible. The Economic Development Council, we've talked to them numerous times about this. I think this really will be a valuable tool for them as they're talking to new businesses that will potentially come to town. As you know the process, oftentimes Tallahassee could be shortlisted, and it could be small differences between us and Allen, Texas, for example, or somewhere, a company that we would want to attract to Tallahassee. This may make the difference, and we're encouraged that it will. We're told, actually, I've talked to Beth Kirkland. She feels very positive that we will have some folks that this will persuade to come to Tallahassee. So that's, in general, the summary of the program. It will be structured as a pilot that will begin with your approval on July 1st and last for 2 years. The discounts, again, will be in place for a 5-year period after the customer signs up.
Questions?
I'll move the item.
We can't,
Oh,
we
I'm
gotta
sorry.
wait. We have to wait, right?
Right, you vote on it
Excuse me.
after the
We'll
ordinance
afterwards. We'll
approval.
defer any action until the appropriate time. Next item.
The next item is 13.03, and Commissioners, this is a discussion and approval to submit the fiscal year 2011 Section 5307 Federal Transit Administration grant application for supplemental funding. The bottom line on this one is that due to the lack of a highway authorization bill, the Federal Transit Administration has been operating with short-term funding extensions. This meant that Star Metro's formula grant funds were partially released last year in the amount of just over $1 million. And the remaining funds, which are a little over $1.5 million, are now being released. We're asking you to authorize us to submit a grant application to obligate the remaining grant funds
Why
for
wouldn't
Star
we do
Metro.
this? Commissioner Ziffer moves it.
That I'll move.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
13.04 is a discussion of and approval to accept and execute an Amendment A to the existing non-federal reimbursement agreement between the Federal Aviation Administration and the City of Tallahassee. And Commissioners, this item is related to ongoing runway 18-36 improvements to amend an existing reimbursable agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for engineering support services. Lucky Sunil, he gets to present this item today when we have two commissioners who were on two different planes on 2 different days who had to come from Atlanta to Tallahassee, almost land and turn around and go all the way back to Atlanta. So this will be, you'll get to answer all those questions related to that, Sunil, in addition to responding to this issue.
Thank you, Madam Manager, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Mustin, my apologies, Commissioner Gill, my apologies. Runway 927 was available at all times. The reason you couldn't land at Tallahassee with the weather conditions we had was because there were crew and aircraft limitations. Coincidentally, it was the same flight, the same aircraft, not the same crew, but they weren't able to do a GPS approach, and that is relevant to this item. Typically, you approach the airport from the east to west. We've got an instrument landing system that allows you to land when the weather ceiling drops to 2,000 feet cloud cover and visibility is less than a quarter mile. And we still have the capability to land those aircraft. However, the aircraft crews have to be trained to do those landings, and they have to have equipment on board. Neither condition existed. In fact, those aircraft shouldn't have departed Atlanta.
That's comforting.
No. Let me tell you, we're on this full flight, and everybody's disgusted that we had been waiting so long. I'd come from a conference in D.C., and the the pilot, when we made the second attempt to land here, said very frustratingly over the PA system that the city of Tallahassee doesn't have an east-west landing. And because they don't, we've got to go back to Tallahassee. So you can imagine
Back
when
to
we
Atlanta.
landed, everybody came to me and said, why don't we have an east-west landing? So I was like, I have no clue what you're talking about. You should have a conversation with Delta, though, about...
We did. Of course, you know that the runway 927 has a 90-degree and a 270-degree heading, so that is the east-west runway.
Directionally challenged.
And a flight at 10 o'clock, an hour and a half after your flight, returned, an Embraer 145 with the right equipment and right crew landed in worse weather conditions than you were encountering. So we've talked to Delta about potentially taking out the MD-88 during inclement weather, but typically this was an anomaly. You had a storm that was gusting winds at almost 35, 40 miles per hour in the wrong direction. And so I apologize for that.
Not you.
The FAA is looking at converting its airport navigational systems under a next-gen program from a ground-based system to a GPS or satellite-based system. Most of our electrical transmission on airports typically are handled by cable transmission lines. There's a desire to migrate to a fiber optic system for reliability. I deferred the item because I wanted to see what the condition was when we started this project. We found that the fiber cable is required because the copper cable has been significantly impacted by lightning, water intrusion. So when you've got inclement weather, in order to have a resilient airport, I think it would be prudent for us to upgrade to a fiber optic system. And that's the consensus of the FAA as well as the project team. It's 95% funded by federal dollars, so it's not an issue of funding. We just need to amend this agreement so that we can go with a fiber system.
Questions?
Move approval.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thanks, Sunil. I got it. What night was that?
That was,
Monday night.
yeah, Monday night for me. It's never a good feeling when the landing gear goes down and then the plane goes back up.
Right back up.
I came in the night before and was no problem, but anyway. All right, we'll be in recess until 6 o'clock. We have a reception outside honoring those individuals who help us with our electric utility system and got us this water to the best in the nation. We'll be outside. Thank you, and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock.
Awesome.
have Jim, though.
We can do it.
He's here? Aren't we on public hearings?
We're on public hearings,
All right.
and we have 7 public hearings this evening. The first one is 15.01, which is the second and final public hearing on adopting the annual action plan for fiscal year 2012 and 13, authorization to submit the plan to HUD, appropriate funding, and authorization to enter into contracts to implement approved activities.
Any speakers?
No speakers on this item.
Okay, that's the second and final public hearing, Commissioners. Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
The next item is item 1502, the first of 2 public hearings on ordinance 12Z17, proposed amendments to the official zoning map, changing a zoning classification from single-family R2 residential preservation urban fringe to open space, and it is here for public hearing and action.
There are no speakers on this item, Mayor.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. There is one, Mayor.
There is 102. You can fill it out afterwards, okay? Yeah, fill it out afterwards, and make sure you fill it out so we'll have it. Go ahead. Go to the podium. Mhm.
Now, this is the Lafayette Heritage Trail.
We're on 03, sorry about that.
Right.
Okay. All right, we're on 03, I guess.
Did you vote on 02? Sure.
I thought that was the first.
I'm sorry, you're correct, Mayor. Next item is 15.03. It's the first and only public hearing on ordinance 12Z19, proposed amendments to the official zoning map, to change from RP1 zoning district to the Piedmont Park Plan Unit Development.
Mayor, I do not have a speaker form, but I believe we have speakers on this item.
If you're going to speak on 03, go to the podium. If you're going to speak on 03, go ahead and go to the podium and fill out. We'll get the forms from you, okay? All right, go right ahead.
This is the RP1.
Say what now?
This is the transit development, Transit Star Metro.
Wait a minute.
This is not the item you want to speak on?
Take a look at it. We're on 15.03.
All right, that's going to, let me help you with that.
Okay.
That's,
We'll get there.
All right. Do we
Mayor,
have any speakers on
Could you
1503?
read basically what
Items.
it's on to make sure there are no speakers? Just read the agenda.
Go ahead and read 03. Read 03, Mr. City Manager.
1503 is first and only public hearing on 12Z19. It's an amendment from residential preservation zoning district to the Piedmont Park Plan Unit Development.
No
I
speakers.
don't believe there are any speakers on it.
I don't have a form. I don't believe there are any speakers on that Piedmont Park item.
All right, motion.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next item.
The next one, 1504, is the first and only public hearing on ordinance 12Z22, proposed amendments to the official zoning map, changing a zoning classification from Central Urban 26 to Central Urban 45, and that is the item that is on Monroe Street, the Buddy's Marine site.
Mayor, we have a number of speakers on that item.
All right.
don't know
And
who they are.
apparently, and I believe these folks will have time to fill out a form as we get through those. The first speaker is Kevin McGordy, and I'll ask speakers as you approach the podium, if you will, give your name and address for the record. You'll have a green light to your left that signifies your 3 minutes, and it'll turn yellow when you have 30 seconds remaining and red when your time's up.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Pull the microphone in front of you, Kevin.
Thank you. I see both families are here tonight, which is great, because I think that's what this is all about. Tonight, I'm here to speak in support of the...
Can we get your name and address for the
I'm
record?
sorry, Kevin McGordy, 411 Oakland Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight to speak in support of the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny this application for rezoning. On the face of it, it looks simple, Commissioners. It looks like a young businessman looking to consolidate his business to a vacant lot, and I think we all welcome that on Monroe Street. Against a neighborhood association, well-established, who are concerned about the protection of that neighborhood. And normally that might make for high drama in Judge Judy's court, but tonight in the Chamber of Commerce, this is actually a broader issue. What's at stake here is not only to develop the lot to its full potential to accommodate this motorcycle sales and repair, but it is also the right of inner city residents to be assured that their investment in their homes are going to be protected from diminishment and encroachment of incompatible development. It's not about an issue of the Orion motorcycle. It's about a zoning issue of the potential of that site. You are not asked here to just look at it from the issue of the current owner of the property and what he is going to do. The planning staff recognize that both CU and CU 45 are incompatible to residential preservation. Our western flank of our neighborhood is CU 26. We're not turning that clock back. We can't put that genie back in the bottle. We need to live with that, and live with it we will. But what's being asked tonight is to upzone to CU 45, the back lot of this parcel, that will provide an additional 58% uses in excess of CU 26. That's what's at stake here. And at stake here is a neighborhood that's one of Tallahassee's oldest and historic, and the neighbors have worked very diligently to conserve that, to be a vital part of the fabric of downtown. We love living there. It's a beautiful neighborhood. We walk to the Bai Tai restaurant. Some of us walk to work. Some of us go to buy a comic book for our kids on the corner. We all want South Monroe Street to be a viable economic district. What we don't want is South Monroe Street penetrating into the neighborhood.
Excuse me, your time's expired.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would just like to close thanking the Commission that this is a larger issue than just one lot and one owner. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Jeannie Connor. She'll be followed by Susan Mayo Lorch.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Connor, 534 Oakland Avenue. Thank you very much for allowing this hearing and hearing all of our concerns. There are three things that I'm really concerned about. I sent you a letter shortly after the Planning Commission rejected the proposed ordinance or declined to send it forward with a positive recommendation. And I think some of these things were included in that. I'm very, very much concerned about losing the CU 26 buffer that is shown on your map. The CU 26 buffer that runs between Van Buren Street and the map goes as far as Harrison, so that there's CU 45 at the front, the buffer of CU 26 in the middle, and then RP2. And I think that's very important because there are lots of uses and different kinds of intensities in these areas. This zoning is only 6 years old. Surely it was put there to serve as a buffer. It makes a beautiful line through the neighborhood. Changing this from CU 26, to CU 25 allows a lot of different uses that are less compatible with neighborhoods than CU 26 is. And to say that since they are both incompatible, as the report does, that they're both incompatible with the budding RP2, and so, goodness, I don't know what's wrong. And so therefore it doesn't make any difference, is not correct. It makes a difference between 26 housing units per acre and 45 housing units per acre. To say that doesn't make a difference is like saying it doesn't matter if you eat 26% fat or 45% fat. If you violate the speed limit by 26 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour. All of those things have consequences. And we're very concerned about preserving the flow from high-density urban to less high-density urban into RP2. And another thing I'm very much concerned about is CU45 creep in this area. There may be special circumstances in this area in this request for rezoning. I promise you there are going to be lots of other special requests for rezoning. It's inevitable, it happens. CU creep terrifies me. So, in conclusion, according to the report sent to you by the staff, CU26 is consistent with the comprehensive plan. CU26 is consistent with land development regulations. Neither CU26 nor CU45 is, quote, intended to be located next to a residential preservation land use. But CU26 and CU25 are not the same.
Excuse me, your time's expired.
Thank you. All I wanted to say is the report says, the staff report says this would not be a new condition of incompatibility, but it would certainly be a worse one. And thank you very much.
The next speaker is Susan Mayo Lorch, followed by Stan Mikulski.
Hello, I'm Susan Mayo Lorch. I'm at 543 East Jennings. I don't know all these numbers that everybody keeps bouncing around, but I am in opposition to upgrading or downgrading, is what I put it as, on this piece of property. It's fine like it is. It's our buffer. We need it. South Monroe Street has always been a stepchild in Tallahassee. I was born here. I've been here 70 years. Yes. And I like it, and I would like to see South Monroe Street upgrade, not downgrade. We need more compatible things. We have Cascades Park coming. Let's not turn it into a zoo and a circus. And we are so close to the Capitol. Let's step forward, not backwards. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Stan Mikulski.
You got to come up here, Mr. Unfortunately. Just, it's good what I think you're going to do.
I'm Stan Mikulski, 534 Oakland Avenue. The first three speakers have said everything I have to say, so all I can say is amen. Please give what they've said every possible consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
The next speaker is John Berry, followed by Peter, I believe it's Grossell.
Thank you. My name is John Berry. I live at 1324 South Meridian Street. That's the northwest corner of Harrison and Meridian. I've been there 24 years next month. We are already using South Meridian as a motorcycle test track, I guess for the shop that's up on Perkins and Monroe. But we have enough traffic on there and we don't need any more noise. And I hope this doesn't come to pass. I've been in Tallahassee a long time and spent a lot of time down there at Buddy Brandt's marine shop. But that's it. Thank you.
Peter Grossell, and then the next speaker will be Dixie Davis.
Good evening, Commissioners. I live at 1435 South Gadsden between Pershing and Jennings Street. I have seen people testing motorcycles on South Gadsden Street with little kids in the street and so forth, four-wheelers and so forth. I assume they come from the motorcycle shop down there on South Monroe that's situated there. I live at the highest commercial nexus of Myers Park, right there by Florida Transmission and Meyer Pond Supply. So I see a lot of things come through there that you probably don't see a block or two over. I've had a lot of noise complaints and a couple family rumbles in the multifamily units across the street from me. We're all single family on our side. So with that being said, I would like to just encourage you, as the others have, to look at South Monroe Street in a holistic fashion. It is, and it needs to be upgraded. If we can upgrade it, not by putting a motorcycle shop right next to Cascade Park, then let's do so. Compatible and incompatible zonings are something that I'm not really versed on, but at least I know what happens on South Gadsden Street with the commercial activity. I'd like to see that buffered to some extent by looking at and taking these commercial activities that test vehicles and so forth and put them a little further south. See a gradation away from Cascades Park towards a more commercial area at, say, around Orange Avenue or so. And that's basically it. Thank you very much.
Dixie Davis, followed by Wendy Gray.
Good evening. My name is Dixie Davis, and I live at 1303 Broome Street. And I was asked to present my perspective as a relatively new resident in Myers Park neighborhood. I bought my property in July of 2005, and I'd just like to say that it's an amazing place to live. I was attracted by the natural beauty, the wonderfully mature landscapes, beautiful trees, and then the historic significance. And I'd hate to see anything that would threaten that, especially the effort that's been put into preserving and protecting that area. So I ask if there are any other alternatives that you consider those, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Next.
Wendy Gray, then Vivian Young.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Wendy Gray. My address is 1047 Myers Park Drive, and I'm here to express my concerns about the proposed rezoning. And to do so, I'd like to first draw your attention to Attachment 5 of your agenda item, page 1 of 3, and I'd simply like to identify some of the uses that are permitted in this zoning district that are not permitted under the current zoning district. And I'm just reading some of these, which would include automotive service and repair, including car washes, automobile, retail, parts, accessories, motor fuel sales, and on the last page, page 3 of 3, warehouses, mini warehouses, or self-storage facilities. And I'd like to remind you that when you approve this rezoning, all those uses will become permitted uses as of right within this district. The second thing I'd like to point out to you, if you would go to Attachment 6, page 3 of 4, there's been some discussion about the placement of CU 26 and 45 adjoining residential preservation areas. Page 3 of Attachment 6 is the beginning of the district intent for this zoning district. If you flip to the second page, page 4 of 4, it says, this district is not intended to be located adjacent to areas designated residential preservation on the future land use map except at a rear lot line in the Providence neighborhood overlay. That language seems very unambiguous to me, that this is not an appropriate location for this zoning. And now I'm not speaking to the use that's being proposed or the specifics of the site, but in the context of your zoning code. The other thing I'd just like to leave you with, and I'm not sure if this was ever officially adopted, but this happens to be a perspective of this intersection from your Monroe Adams placemaking report. And I apologize, I only have one copy here, but I'll leave it with somebody. But it certainly shows a more urban, more intensive, pedestrian-oriented development pattern. And I think this is the message that the city was sending, that this is the kind of development they'd like to see. Thank you.
The next speaker is Vivian Young. And then after that will be Robert Olmsted.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Vivian Young, and I live at 411 Oakland Avenue in the Myers Park neighborhood. I'm also asking you to support the Planning Commission position and deny the proposed rezoning. As you all know, you're not here tonight for a popularity contest to see who can turn out the most people and who can make the most emotional pleas. You're here to make a legally binding decision. Is this rezoning request consistent with the City of Tallahassee's comprehensive plan, land development regulations, and other policies and ordinances? And I think any decision that's made here tonight needs to be based on those questions. As Wendy pointed out, there are provisions within the city's land development regulations. It says CU 45 is not compatible adjacent to residential preservation. One thing that I don't think has been mentioned, and I apologize for not having a map, but I know you have them in your packages, is that the parcel that you're looking at directly abuts residential preservation 3 zoning. There are single-family and multifamily houses that back up onto this lot. So we're not talking about an abstraction. We're talking about a piece of land that is right next to single-family and multifamily houses right now. And I think that the issue of compatibility is a major one that needs to be addressed. First of all, is motorcycle repair shop with the noise associated with it appropriate right behind a single-family residential home and multifamily residential? As Wendy raised, is the possible uses, which also include mortuaries, motor fuel sales, packaged liquor, and other such uses, appropriate immediately adjacent to existing single-family and multifamily residential that are some of which are zoned residential preservation 3. And the third point is, what does this do to make things better, or does it make things worse? And I think the clear answer is that it increases not only the list of incompatible uses that are allowed on this particular parcel, but also the intensity of development. As several people have said, CU 26 was adopted, I'm not sure, 7 or 8 years ago with the clear intent that it be a buffer between the high-intensity commercial development on Monroe Street, which we are very supportive of and are not here to complain about, and the residential preservation area that the city has designated as the City of Tallahassee's first historic residential district. And I think that the reason that that was put in the plan was the recognition that there needs to be buffer from intensive development on Monroe Street and residential preservation. We love living downtown. We know there's going to be commercial development around our neighborhood. We walk places, we walk downtown, we welcome shops and other things.
Excuse me,
but
your
this
time's
is not.
expired.
This is not, I believe, an appropriate use for this particular parcel because of its direct impact on residential preservation areas and residences. Thank you very much.
Robert Olmsted, followed by Orion Weddington.
My name is Robert Olmsted. I live at 1412 South Meridian Street. In the house my wife's father built in 1940, so we got deep roots in the neighborhood. I'm also the president of Myers Park Neighborhood Association. You all might recognize me. We've worked with the city and we fought against the city before on incompatible development. We believe that this is an incompatible development, that this is a bad decision on many different levels. We have fought to bring our neighborhood back up, the historic overlay, and now to allow a change of zoning, and I'm not even talking about the motorcycle shop. I'm talking about in 10 years from now, when that park comes online, the value of that property is going to skyrocket, and the profit pressure is going to force it into another development. If you open up the door for whatever development is compatible to CU 46, guaranteed the highest density, the most profit is going to be made on that land. That's not right for what we've been promised in the neighborhood. It's going to, the property is located right next to the landing for the pedestrian bridge across South Monroe Street. It's right next to the park. It's a beautiful piece of property. This is not a good idea. And the Myers Park Neighborhood Association opposes this decision and will do everything that we can to legally oppose the opposition of it. I'm serious about this, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a good idea. The guy knew what he bought when he bought the property. It was zoned the way it is right now. We have nothing against him. I wish him the best in his business. If we can arrive at a compromise that will allow him to do what he wants to do there without changing the property zoning, we'll be perfectly amenable to that. But to raise the level of it right where it's situated is a bad idea. and we resisted every step of the way. Thank you.
The next speaker is Deborah Desilets, and then, I'm sorry, or Orion Weddington, then Deborah Desilets, yeah.
Hi, my name is Orion Weddington, 1215 South Monroe Street. I own Orion Motorsports. I'm trying to rezone the rear building of my property so I can grow my business to meet demand. The subject property has been a repair shop for most of its life. The zoning was correct for my use when I first started looking at the property several years ago. I've made offers on the subject property 2 times in the past 5 years before I was finally able to make a deal this year. Before the first offer, I checked with the zoning department and was told that my use would be fine. Then when I made the offer that bought me the building, I checked with zoning and found out that the top building had been rezoned to CU26 in an overlay that does not allow for its historic use. When I talked with zoning officials, I was told that it should be an easy process to rezone it back to its historical zoning, CU45, and I was told I would get staff recommendation for the approval. After purchasing the property, I submitted the rezoning application, and I got the recommendation for the staff for the CU45. Everything seemed to be fine until I was contacted a few weeks prior to the meeting on June 2nd by the Myers Park Homeowners Association. I contacted Mr. Olmsted to see if I might be able to alleviate some of the concerns, and he was very hostile to the idea, telling me there was no chance of me getting this done. At the hearing, Mr. Olmsted was the only representative of the association, and he was stating that the motorcycle shop is not the problem, it's just setting precedents for future rezonings in the area. This business is my life's work. I started this business 8 years ago by leasing a 6x6 office and 3 parking spots on Railroad Avenue. I have sustained consistent growth year after year by providing a good and in-demand service for the residents of Tallahassee. Not just motorcycles, we service ATVs, personal watercraft, and scooters. And I have a vision of what could be at this location. In the front building, I want nothing but retail in a nice storefront. There's a middle building that I want to have a small coffee shop / waiting area for my customers to use while getting service work performed. And I also want to do bicycle rentals and sell ice cream. The rear building I need to use for service, and this is a vital part of my business. I currently have 8 full-time employees and plan on hiring several more if I can finish my project. I've invested everything I have into this project and I'm past the point of no return. It is up to you, commissioners, whether to let a derelict building get renovated and used for what it has been historically used for, and let a locally owned business grow to create private sector jobs, or risk bankrupting me and my family and putting 8 more on unemployment. The service department is vital for my business. I understand the importance of trying to protect the historic overlay and the property, but in this case, zoning is being used to prevent a property from being used as it has been historically. My property is in a unique situation. Please be fair with your voting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Deborah Desilets, then followed by James Tompkins.
Hi, my name is Deborah Desilets. I live at 629B Industrial Park Drive. Orion Weddington hired me to help draw his vision. He asked me today to speak to you about his vision for the Old Buddy Marines buildings, a vision for growing his business in Tallahassee next to a park that's going to be beautiful. I asked Orion if I could speak about the historical significance of the site location, its relationship to Cascades historically, and he said no. I asked if I could talk about the fact that the property had been downzoned when the overlay was put on it, and if he had been an orphan site at that time because the owner was absent and not watching as the overlay was done. He said, no, don't talk about that either. I said, well, then just what do you want me to tell them? He said, tell them about who I am. Orion knows motorsports, and his vision is one that embraces the concerns of the neighborhood and the growing needs for Tallahassee to attract tourism at all levels of movement, pedestrians, cyclists, scooters, and motorcycles. The move to the Old Buddy Marines Automotive Sales and Service Center was to provide better service, more comfort to his clients, and a green edge for them to enjoy the park and walk through. He was celebrating that green edge, and he was hoping to bring a little bit of that old street feel into his own area by using the second building as a cafe bicycle rental shop and a detailing shop so people can come and have on a nice red brick. I mean, he saved the red brick pavement from the buildings up above. He wanted to make a little red brick road on the inside of his shop so that he could have a cute alternative cascade area for his clients to come, and then use the automotive area at the top for all of the 8 bays for his employees to be able to work. Orion understands that the parks, the pedestrians, the arcades, and his Edge building, if it ever had an arcade at the front, and bike trail areas lining up alongside of his site would be great for business for Cascades Park and also for him. His hopes and dreams complement the city's vision. Teamwork is what makes ordinary people extraordinary, gentlemen. I'd like to thank and praise the Neighborhood Association for their arduous efforts, yet I encourage the Commission to not let an opportunity to work as a team with business slip by. It's through thoughtfulness that trust is born and courage can be born in this neighborhood that so needs help. This is the little automotive shop that could. You guys have a chance to help something that historically has been an automotive service center, provide the occupation for over 15 families in this community, and see over 2.5 million hits on a website, and see that his business continue after 7 years, continue to increase within a neighborhood that he will be a magnet for, not a detraction to. The only thing creeping here is kudzu at the back of his building, and it's not a road. Van Bruin is a cul-de-sac, and it's a kudzu campus, and I invite any of you to come and see the kudzu. And the degree to which a buffer needs to be built, it's already been built by nature. There is no sight line that comes from Cascade Park. There are no noise intrusions into the Cascade area. There's a swale at 20 feet. His property sits at 100 feet, 20 feet below the railroad track, which goes by, which is noisier. His hours of operation...
Excuse me, your time has expired.
And its hours of operation are compatible with the city's. Let him put scooters on the street, let people come from the city offices, and let them have repairs done while they lunch and walk beautiful Cascades. He will be a magnet to the community, not a detraction. You have plenty of a buffer zone already. Thank you.
James Tompkins, and then Daniel Parker.
My name is James Tompkins. I live at 18931 Bluntstown Highway. I was born and raised in Tallahassee. I've worked on motorcycles for many years. All I really have to say is, we live and breathe motorcycles. It's what we do. Our business has really grown. We have our 8 employees. We have to utilize the upper building to its full potential. If we don't, we're going to have to downsize. If we downsize, we're going to lose. We're going to have to lose some of our employees. And if we do that, we're just downgrading the business, and that's really what we're going for. We're just trying to save our jobs here. Thank you.
Next speaker is Daniel Parker. And Mayor, unless there's someone else filling out a form, that'll be the final speaker on this item.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners, Daniel Parker, 1009 Harvard Street. This came before us when I was with the commission a couple weeks ago. Another one of those difficult issues. It was a split vote. I believe we voted 3-2 to recommend denial. We tried to work with staff, try to figure out some kind of a way to get both things, get the business, protect the neighborhood. In the end, I think the Planning Commission just decided that it was not compatible. I think it's a difficult issue. If you decide that you're going to do this for the sake of the neighborhood, I would say to try to put some kind of restrictions at all, if possible, whether it's the time of operation, noise, those kinds of things. I think the neighborhood wants some reassurance that this won't be sort of a slippery slope if this is allowed to go through. Thank you.
That it?
That's the final speaker.
All right, Commissioner Muschin.
All right, well, I have some questions for staff. I don't know who's, so the staff recommendation was approval on this, is that right? From
That's
the planning
correct.
department? And in terms of the CU 45 not being next to residential and that stuff that was pointed out, what was help us through that?
Well, that same language is in the CU 26 district as well. And I don't know if you remember 4 years ago when everything in CU was basically CU 45. And it was decided that we needed to step some of those down. And so we created the sub-districts, had a huge mapping effort that came before the commission. I think it was in late 2008. And South Monroe was one of the trickier areas to map. And we do have, I can show you the area, but we tried when possible. CU45 can only be located on a major collector or an arterial. CU26 was the next. We tried to create a buffer before any of the low density residential. It wasn't always possible, but where it was, we did. In this case, we didn't, we were looking at thousands of parcels, so we didn't really get in and look, all right, this is owned by the same person. It would probably create this orphan site, as she referred to it. So we had an opportunity for a buffer with the CU26. Had the owner been active, he probably would have come in and said, they both need to be 45, or we'd do a unity of title, make it all 45, but that wasn't the case. It is true that the CU45 would allow more intense uses, but the development standards are identical. They're driven by the multimodal transportation district. The density could be greater, but you'd have to put it in the same building. Same buffers apply with the two zoning districts. All the development standards are identical.
So I guess just, I'm still trying to understand, for what he wants to do, he has to have CU45 zoning?
Well, he can do it in the front part of he bought two parcels.
Right.
And did a unity of title to create the one. With this, if it's not approved, would result in split zoning. So he can do most of what he wants to do in the front part, and would just have to find some other use for that back part in CU26.
So he'd have to have his repair stuff on the front part, and because that's where he can do the repair stuff
Correct.
under the...
If that could work out for him in the site, yes.
Anybody else? Commissioner?
Yeah, first I want to thank both the applicant and the neighbors for coming out. These are the
Tough ones.
The choices that are not as great to make when you're up here. Zoning is always one of the toughest things, because there's always someone on one side who feels like the loser and someone who feels like the winner. And I'm curious to know from staff up to this point, with regard to negotiations between the applicant and the neighborhood association, have there been any formal discussions between the two on how it can be mutually resolved?
I don't know of any other than the one that the applicant referred to. We encouraged him all along to reach out to them, and vice versa. We would be happy to facilitate further discussion if it was your wish.
Yeah, I mean, I was initially compelled, without having a charrette of what this is going to look like, or do we have any pictures of what this is proposed to look like? I was trying to follow the description, but I thought initially under the description from the neighbors that it would be completely incompatible to have just a motorcycle repair shop along Cascades. I mean, we're trying to, in a lot of other areas, rid, heavy and not necessarily industrial, but really heavy, intense, noisy uses. But then I heard the applicant describe his vision for cycling, ice cream shop, so on and so forth, and the two didn't really jive with me. So I would love to see, is this it? Something more detailed.
We have something that, if you don't mind, we can try to show you Orion's vision if it will show up here. Sorry, this is, the railroad tracks would be...
Ma'am, let the staff.
That works.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in? Zoom in a little bit. That gives you an idea of the third building, which is contentious, which is the one that's on the farthest to my right. Sorry.
I don't have a complete orientation based on this picture. I'll tell you what I would prefer to see is if we could actually incentivize the neighborhood and this applicant having some real discussion about what the possibilities could be here, especially if cycling is a part of this, especially if it's consistent with some of our own visioning about Cascades Park. If it's just a motorcycle sort of repair deal, I'm a little less inclined to want to see an upgrade to CU 45 at that level of intensity for that kind of a purpose. That being said, I completely understand the neighborhood's concerns. By the same token, I don't think we can override potential use on, the business use on Monroe Street, in my opinion, in many cases should be heavy. We ought to have folks going down there patronizing businesses. And then if there could be a complementary use to what we're building in the park, I think great. The concern I also heard from the neighbors is what happens in lieu of this shop being there, what the potential risks are for redevelopment. Could you speak a little bit to what the redevelopment options are if we redesignate to CU 45 and how that's different from the existing designation on the site?
Well, again, really the only difference is the intensity of the uses. The
So
development standards are identical.
So give me an example of the worst thing that could go there.
They mentioned a few, the cocktail lounge, whatever their greatest fear is. But would be a higher density.
Is it a big apartment complex going up? What is the?
Well, they could have a higher density, but they'd have to fit it in the same size buildings. So
higher density, same size building.
Correct. The development standards, the buffer standards, they're all identical.
I know.
Commissioner Miller.
Well, just to go into a few, there are a couple things. First of all, I want to say to you that I am sorry that somehow, because I believe just from what you've said that our staff misled you before you bought this property. These folks came in, and I'm sorry that I sound angry, but I am upset about this. These folks planned ahead. They came in years ago, and all along they were led to believe this was going to work out just fine, to the point where they committed their life savings and went in and bought this property. And now here we are in a situation where not only do we have one land use for CU 45, but we have another, a secondary one, CU 26, both of which are not even supposed to be next to residential preservation. But I can understand why, when the rezonings were done, and believe me, I was probably on the Planning Commission and I probably voted for them. So I admit culpability in that. The question here, though, is the first thing is that let's just go over a few of the differences that Commissioner Gillum asked about. Okay, first of all, the types of retail would be greatly expanded on what you could do. And this is not necessarily for y'all. And I know it's going to be hard to hear what I'm going to say next about this, but my intention is to get somewhere where we can work something out here. Okay, so bear with me. We've got automobile services, which is what they would like to do. Automobile retail, parts, accessories, banks, bait and tackle shops, daycare centers, government offices and services, indoor theaters. There's a restaurant, mortuary. We could have a mortuary here. Motor fuel sales, that's a gas station. Pet daycare, photocopy, retail tools, repair services again, all sorts of, I think as Russell pointed out, a restaurant could be there. Now, this thing fronts on the very path. All that kudzu is going to go away because it fronts on the place where the path will go to, that goes from Cascades Park across this multi-million-dollar bridge we're getting ready to put across the road that's going to be the Capitol Cascades Trail. That's exactly what this fronts to. The uses of ice cream and bicycles, all about that. That would be great. That would be a great location for that. It's these other uses that I have a problem with. It's the fact that we're talking about putting them, if we grant this particular land use or zoning change, we're going to have absolutely no basis for saying no to anybody else that comes in here and wants the same thing all the way down the corridor. To me, the decision we're making here is whether we're going to be consistent with the comprehensive plan or not. And we all just approved these zoning districts, and here we are again, basically almost with one of the very first folks that's walked through the door asking for it, saying, hey, okay, whatever, I mean, that's the decision that you're being asked to make here tonight, and this is not just a minor increase in density and intensity that you're talking about. So that's the problem. So finally, I'd like to know Jim English's opinion as far as whether we can get a variance on this, or what other opportunities we have open to these folks without the rezoning.
We have looked at the issue of, is there a way to accommodate this particular use without having to allow all the other uses that are provided for by right in CU 45? And we really haven't found a way to do that. I mean, quite a few people have looked at that. We don't have land use variances, what are called use variances that would permit a particular use. Staff's looked to see if we could do a PUD, because if you could do a PUD, obviously you can limit uses and so on and so forth, but the property doesn't qualify for a PUD, I think due to size primarily. And really looked at other techniques. The only thing that I see as a possibility is an agreement between the neighborhood association and the owner to restrict uses and deal with other issues with the site plan. That's something that the city is not a party to, and it's something we don't enforce, but it has been used before. The best example is the Metropolitan Center property. And it's been used in some other situations. But that's something, again, the parties to that are the owner and the adjacent HOA.
So let me just clarify what he's saying. What you're saying is that the zoning doesn't matter as long as the parties agree on the use, and that doesn't make sense to me.
No, the zoning is going to control. The agreement would be more specific. For example, the neighborhood may say, we won't object to you having CU 45, but here's what we want. The use is limited to motorcycle repair, maybe a couple of others, hours of operation, lighting, setbacks, whatever the particular concerns are.
How do you do that?
An agreement.
They would get together, we could facilitate a session.
But how do you codify that?
On a document.
How do you codify it?
Right.
You don't. We would just do the zoning piece. They would have an agreement that can be recorded as a record, but it is enforceable as a private contract, not by the government.
Commissioner Ziffer.
So if they were to work that out, we would have to go ahead and pass the zoning change, though, which would then allow this motorcycle shop to do their business, but then it would be an agreement between them and the homeowners association to prevent them to change the use, or if they were to ever sell the property, to prevent anybody else from changing those uses. Is that accurate?
Whatever they agreed to.
Could it possibly be that they, if we were to do the zoning change, and they were to come to an agreement and the owner ever decided to change it or sell it, it would revert back to the old zoning, or would that have to come back to us?
It would have to come back to you.
So then that would be at the decision of whatever that future commission is.
Yeah, because you would not be bound by that agreement. Or a future commission.
I'm going to suggest something. I don't know if it works, because it seems like, because I thought basically we had no legal option here, but maybe there's some way to get through this. I'm going to tell you, if we had to vote today, I'd probably vote against this, simply because I think we want to accomplish some things in South Monroe.
Wait a minute. Voting against the staff recommendation?
Yeah, but I'm not going to suggest, I'm going to suggest we defer and see if there's something that can be worked out between now and whatever we establish the next meeting, because it sounds like there might be a window. Just try to figure something out, because up to this point, I thought there was no option other than the zoning change, and it sounds like there may be something we can work out, and I'd rather give it a chance than to vote up and down today. So that would be my preference.
That's a suggestion at this point. Commissioner?
The access to this facility, is it all Monroe?
Yes, and the portion of Van Buren.
Now, where does Van Buren go up to? Where does
Just
it end?
barely past the property, if at all. It runs.
What's what?
I'm looking at the pictures that you got. It looks, if this is Van Buren, it looks like
It's not a really.
There is no
alley.
road.
It's not a real road. Oh,
It's an entrance to the property.
got it.
Anybody else?
Use your cursor.
I don't have any problems with Commissioner Ziffer's suggestion. I would tell you, at this point in time, I don't have any problems with Commissioner Ziffer's suggestion because I think it might work if we can work something out and between the parties. I think that's always preferable if they can work. It's preferable if we can do that. So I'll go along with that at this point in time. Commissioner Mustin.
Well, it's always frustrating when, I think this could be worked out in some fashion. Somehow our rules are getting in the way of doing that. So I'd like to kind of kick it back to our staff and see if we can't figure something else out. And if the rules don't allow small PUDs, well, maybe we ought to allow small PUDs. But I take my car to be serviced at McKenzie's Automotive, which is on Jennings Street, which is like 3 or 4 blocks south of here, considerably east of Monroe Street. So I just kind of think maybe we can work this out in some fashion. I recognize the neighborhood not wanting to set a precedent for stuff that could be worse than this, and I think we want to guard against that, but maybe there's some way we can get this done and still.
So what I hear you saying, we're going to defer action on this?
Well,
Do that?
Mr. Mayor, we'll need to continue the public hearing. I wouldn't close it because obviously there's going to be new developments.
But I think Commissioner Mustin's suggestion is appropriate, and that is I think we need to involve our staff directly to try to mediate some kind of conclusion.
I thought that was always part of this.
Yeah, and I would be more in favor of a process rather than just saying, you guys go work it out and reach your own agreement. I'd rather the PUD option was a preferable one to me if we could do that somehow. So,
Commissioner Miller.
My question was if we're asking the folks to work out with the neighborhoods, the uses on the CU45, why aren't we asking them to do exactly that same thing on CU26?
It could be either, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I'm asking Mr. English.
No, that could be part of the.
That could be part of it. Yeah, that doesn't preclude that.
You're all nodding your head the same way, and that's a good sign.
Good.
Yeah. That doesn't preclude that, Commissioner, as far as I understand. We're just continuing to hear. We haven't made any decision on it.
I understand that. My question was, we could probably do the same thing that Mr. English suggested without the zoning change. And then you don't have the cascading of your neighbors all want to be CU45, all that. You're able to go forward and do what you want. You guys are not concerned about the CU45. Hey,
that's exactly what we're saying.
It's all good.
That's what we're saying.
I may not be understanding what you're suggesting. Without the CU45, they cannot conduct the business they want to conduct on the property, which is the motorcycle repair.
Right, that's true. But you said that we could work out, that you could work out with the neighbors and the owners some sort of arrangement aside and outside of.
Well, it can't be inconsistent with the zoning. The zoning's going to control.
Okay,
They would agree to limit uses. Generally, what you do is agree to limit permitted uses within a zoning classification.
All right, so our plan is that we are going to send our staff back to the drawing board and come back to us with a solution in 2 weeks, correct?
Well, I was going to give you your next public hearing dates, July the 11th, August 22nd, and August 29th. July 11th, it would be real aggressive schedule.
Let me say, if we're going to change the zoning, I got to have some assurances, and I'll tell you this right now about the creep. I really do. I think that buffer was put there for a reason. So, if you're all going to discuss this thing and try and do something, that's fine. I'm in favor of that, but somehow or another, the creep has to stop. This is a buffer that was there, and I can see it happening, and I don't know what you would do with it, how you would do that, but I understand the neighbors' concerns, and quite frankly, sir, I understand yours as well. This is a business opportunity for you, but this butts this neighborhood, and I just have to be assured that the creep would not occur further. Okay. Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, more broadly, we're talking about Monroe Street. And so if we are as wildly successful with the redevelopment plans as we think we are going to be, there's going to be pressure on Monroe Street for redevelopment. And I actually think that's a good thing.
Yes.
And rather than allowing the tail to wag the dog, I would really appreciate some visioning from the staff, or at least bringing us back some of those maps that we showed that illustrate the type of business we want to see happen along Monroe Street. Monroe Street is not a local, it's not a local road. And again, I don't mean to sound in any way insensitive to the neighborhood that backs up to it. That's a huge concern, and we have to be careful about how we mitigate the impacts to the neighborhood, as we had to do with regard to the Cascades Park and this whole big performance stage, which is, as was argued by members of the neighborhood, incompatible with the historic preservation of the neighborhood. So as we bring this back, I would like us, without regard of what we do on this site, and I do believe and hope that something mutually beneficial can be worked out, with all due respect and sensitivity to both sides of the issue. But beyond that, we really do need to start thinking about South Monroe and what we're trying to accomplish on it, because if whatever happens on Monroe Street can be vetoed by the surrounding neighborhood, that also creates a problem. And I don't think that's the precedent we want to set either. I don't want to set aside the concerns of the neighbors, and I definitely don't want to set aside the concerns and the vision that we have for redevelopment along Monroe Street. But again, if we are successful at this, there will be redevelopment, and I think we ought to be on the front end of trying to decide what that looks like versus having to respond at this juncture.
Okay. We're going to continue this hearing.
Need to continue it.
Date to be announced, or do you have a date?
We really need to choose a date so we don't have to re-advertise and all that. So the options would be July 11th, August 22nd, and August 29th.
Those are the 2 dates?
Those are your next three public hearings.
What was the first one?
July 11th.
Is that really?
Couldn't we just change the public hearing?
Okay.
Couldn't
Can
we
you
just
wait
have,
till
what's our
August?
last meeting in July?
It's the 11th.
11th.
The only
11th.
meeting.
Okay, that's our
That
only
is the
meeting.
last meeting. All right, let's shoot for July 11th.
That's fine with me. Can staff meet that expectation?
Say what now?
Can staff meet that? Well, our city manager's nodding.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
We
They
can.
can
I'm more
work.
concerned about whether the neighborhood and the
Yeah, that's
organization can do it.
That's my
They're
concern
ready.
too.
Okay.
Speak up, Kevin. All right. Okay. All right. Okay, July 11th.
Split the baby.
July 11th.
One last thing, there's a lot of planning ability in that neighborhood, and I would like for them to please put their thinking hats on and try to come up with a solution to this also.
You know, Commissioner Gillum had a really, and I just say this to you all, to the proprietors, something that would be compatible with Cascades Park makes a lot of sense to me. We're going to have, something that's compatible that everybody can live with, but would be great, in my opinion. But anyway. Okay, we'll continue. Next item.
Next item is item 15.05. It's the first and only public hearing on ordinance 12028, amendments to section 21232 of the Tallahassee Code relating to electric rate pilot programs.
Now I'll move the item.
We do have speakers on the item.
Speakers.
Can I have a second?
Yes.
Speakers, Mr. Mayor.
We got speakers?
We do have speakers on 1505. First is Karen Moore,
Oh, okay.
followed by John Medina.
Okay.
Good evening. Karen Moore, 211 Roden Cove.
As you all know, I'm the chairman of the Economic Development Council, and I am here this evening to say thank you. Thank you to the commissioners, thank you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, City Manager, and thank you, staff. I'm speaking on behalf of the Economic Development Council, its investors, our members, and the broader business community. I think what you all did was recognize a need and an opportunity to develop a new economic development rider for our electric utility. I can say that I believe the city and the Economic Development Council have a strong partnership. We collectively look at ways to elevate the competitiveness of our community. What we want is jobs. We want businesses locally to grow so they can create jobs, and we want to attract businesses that can grow and create jobs. This plan that you have before you is one more thing that we can put in our toolbox along with other local incentive programs to help with that competitive edge. We need to be able to differentiate ourselves, and one way is that we have got to make sure that we are competitive with those other communities that have investor-owned utilities, and they also have similar economic development riders on their projects and utilities for the service area that they have. I see this as a win-win. I just want to say thank you. I want to encourage you to move forward with this effort. I thank you for your clear leadership in economic development, especially in this environment in our community. I think this is a very sound and a very strategic plan, and I look forward to your approving it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is John Medina, and he's the only other speaker on this item, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. My name is John Medina. I live at 3136 O'Brien Drive. As a member of the financial services community, every day I see individuals and businesses that are still struggling to circumnavigate this economic recession that we're having. Times are still very tough. You know, I want to thank you for the relief that you're providing on the cost of electric utilities in response to capital investment and job creation, and it will enhance the sustainability of companies' decisions to expand. As many of you know, 4 out of 5 jobs that are created over the next 5 years will come from small businesses. And I want to thank you for making this a competitive environment and for helping our small business owners with their expenses. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Karen and John, both for your work with us on this issue and your leadership in the economic development community. For those less familiar with the details of this particular item, and so that our residential customers don't think that they're going to have to pay for a benefit going to incentivize new business development, it's important to point out that this opportunity is only being created because of the excess capacity that we've got in our utility system. We can't store energy. When it's created, it is what it is. And so if we have the ability to, I think, use the energy that our electric utility creates based on the generation that we currently have right now for the benefit of luring and attracting new business and business expansion in our community, I think it's a smart use of our time, and so as well as our resources. So I want to applaud and thank the staff for going out and conducting these meetings, getting feedback, and I think coming up with something smart and beneficial both for our customer base as well as for the government and the operations of the utility.
Thank you. We got a motion?
Yep.
Motion.
And a second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Do we want to go back now?
Yes, Mayor, we'd like for you to adopt the previous resolution.
13.02.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Next item.
Next item is item 1506. It's the first of 2 public hearings on an extension of the Chapter 163 Development Agreement for the Evening Rose Plan Unit Development. And essentially, this This 163 agreement, we only gave a 5-year term. That was all the developer wanted. Obviously, with the economic downturn, that needs to be extended, so it's a 10-year, proposed 10-year expansion. No action tonight.
No speakers.
And no public hearing, no speakers.
All right, next item.
Next item is similar. Item 1507 is first of 2 public hearings on an extension of the 163 development agreement for the Governor's Park corners. You may recall this is a Smith family property located at Blairstone and Park Avenue.
Yeah.
A number of those parcels are developed, a few still are not. This agreement would expire this year. The owners have asked that we work out an extension. We want to do some more work on this one and some updating. So what we're proposing you do is just extend it for 1 year, and then during that time we'll look at revising and updating it. Again, just for hearing this evening.
No speakers.
Okay. First of 2 public hearings. All right, next item.
We're on unagendaed business speakers.
Mayor, we have 2 speakers tonight. Dr. Irwin Jackson, followed by Curtis Baines.
Howdy. I'm Dr. Irwin Jackson. I'm at 1341 Jackson Bluff, and I'm here to help you tonight. In a recent editorial, Bob Gabordi expressed concern that the public might be getting confused over my role in exposing the unethical and self-serving actions of John Marks in the past, self-serving actions of John Marks. In the past, the good guys always wore white hats. I'm wearing this hat tonight simply to help eliminate some of the confusion. In the end, Bob's conclusions were accurate. And I quote, "Jackson is a good guy. He was right. And maybe it's time we recognize that. John Mark's actions have been exposed to the public and were described simply as indefensible." Mr. Gabordi concluded that we, the people, should honor Jackson's actions, quote, "because he took on the fight no one thinks you can win. He fought City Hall, and he did win. The only victory I really want is I want to seek a more honest and ethical city government." Mr. Gabordi went on, and I certainly agreed with his comments. During the past several months, each member of this commission ignored the facts or simply acted confused regarding the issues I raised. Fortunately, even a $725 attorney could not confuse the Ethics Commission. Their votes confirmed that John Marks is the most corrupt mayor in the history of Tallahassee. Commissioner Ziffer, the ADE grant was canceled not because of my ethics complaints, but because John Marks acted in an unethical and self-serving manner. Commissioner Gillum, who just walked out, you have supported the mayor's indefensible actions and attacked me for daring to speak the truth, and I think you should apologize to the public. Mr. Marks, you not only took money from AD&E, but arranged for your son to be paid by AD&E. And finally, Mr. Marks, you said you had a sacred trust with the citizen of Tallahassee to be our full-time mayor. You broke that trust when you signed a contract for $12,500 a month and agreed, quote, to devote all of your professional time to the business of Adorno Yachts. Corruption takes an unethical politician and a willing business partner. Commissioner, I strongly request that you review every contract that is in place with Honeywell and take every legal step to terminate that contract and to prevent future contracts. At this time, and based on the facts now known, I ask that this commission to take the authority granted to them in the city charter and to suspend John Marks from this commission.
Your time is up, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Next speaker.
Curtis Baines.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, both of you. I wanted to, Curtis Baines, 1323 East Tennessee Street. I wanted to take a moment tonight to ask about, and I'm not going to get any answers tonight, I understand, but raise to you a question about special appropriations, which I think is a budget category in the management and administration department. During your public hearings, not public hearings, excuse me, your town hall meetings on the budget, I had asked about what special appropriations were, and it's my understanding that it's kind of a miscellaneous category. There are a lot of things that go in there that don't necessarily fit, there's so many of those that go in there that it's kind of difficult to represent them all. So I studied accounting, and not very well, I suppose, because I never did practice accounting or work in accounting. But I understand why there's a miscellaneous or a sundry category, because there's just some things that don't fit very well into the other categories. But in this case, I think over the past, I think in 2011, there was about $16 million. Last year, or they're estimated this year, is around $13 million, and then next year is projected to be over $21 million. And I was wondering why it's going up so quickly, and what special appropriations consists of. So at some point, we probably want to take a look and see what those consist of. I understand, miscellaneous appropriations, when I was studying accounting, generally a very small amount. It's not, 21 million of the $48 million department budget. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'll be following that up with more information later, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more speakers?
That's the final speaker, Mayor.
Is this gentleman back here? Are you going to speak?
That's where we are.
That's where we are. I saw you filling out the form.
We have one more speaker, Daniel Parker.
Daniel Parker, 1009 Harbor Street. Thank you, Commissioners. I wanted to just give some comments on the budget meeting this morning. Is this the proper time to do that? Okay. There was some discussion on wayfinding. I think that was a very good idea. If you haven't had a chance to see the presentation that's done by Dan Donovan on the staff yet, it's a very good presentation on that. Just as an example, we have the IMAX right out here. It's really missing a nice, sort of a marquee for people to see. You can drive right by it and not know that's an IMAX theater. I know that Commissioner Ziffer doesn't like the sense of place acronym or a title. I had some concern when I saw G Street that's a little close to G string, so I think sense of place isn't that bad, so I would like to let's stick with that a little bit. And when we talk about sense of place, let's make sure to mention Railroad Square and the old train station. I have some concern with all the money, all the stuff we're doing at Gain Street. I think there's going to be some long-term pressure on Railroad Square in that area. I think that's actually a great sense of place. That's going to be so distinctive if we keep it over the future that will be a drawing card. So I think we should just keep that in when we talk about sense of place. There were some pictures that were shown near the senior center, I think of the gas lamps. I think that was on 7th Avenue. I think that's really good. I think there could be a little bit more done there. It's right next to the senior center. Put some benches in there. There's already some shading there. We're talking about getting seniors out and things like that. The whole concept of seating and shading, there was another example given, I think over on the Midtown, what they're doing on that. They're going to have built-in seating. Seating and shading, I think, need to be considered completely with all of the infrastructure improvements, especially when we're talking about seniors and the increase in seniors. There was a lot of discussion on parks. Mayor Marks, I think you brought up the Thomasville-Benton, the little corridor that runs along through there.
Yeah.
If I recall, the last time I was walking through there, I actually think it was inmates that were doing the work. So that's actually something to consider if we have more issues of maintenance in some of the parks.
It is something to consider.
So, if we get to I think it's a little dangerous if we're going to do a lot of work on cascades and then at the same time talk about maybe pulling back from some parks. I just don't think the timing is good on that. If we have to explain to the public that we have a lot of parks, we have a limited budget, maybe there's a way to give the neighborhoods a little more ownership of the parks. I think that there are some neighborhoods that would look forward to doing that. There's already a big movement on gardening, community gardening and things like that, and it's good socially, it's good for public health. So before we just shut down parks or move away from them, let's see if some neighborhoods might have some ideas on
Excuse
some
me,
of
your
that.
time
Yes,
expired.
okay. City page, I agree. $50,000 probably spent better somewhere else. Thank you.
Any more other speakers?
None.
Okay, well, I think we're on, what, sharing of ideas?
Yes.
I really have something to say tonight. 18 months of nonstop attacks on me, on my integrity, and things that I have alleged to have done by Mr. Jackson. He would now deny me the opportunity to tell my side. That's what he wants to do. I've always told Mr. Jackson I would defend his right to speak. But I also told him he has no right to be believed. And he doesn't. His vitriol and comments are just vile, and they're just wrong. And he attacks not only me, but he attacks my family. What kind of decent person would attack not only me, but my family? You know, I am really incredibly proud of this community. And for those 18 months, I've been somewhat under a gag rule because I had to abide by a confidentiality agreement set by the Ethics Commission. This man, however, didn't. He just went on and on and on with his vile language, calling me names. Anybody that calls somebody a name like he did me must have something wrong with him himself or the position that he has taken if he's going to stoop that low. Make no mistake, we have a great city, and we all know that by what happened tonight. We've been named the best in America. We've been named the #1 public utility in America. We've been named best parks. We've been named the #1 destination point for retirees. That's no accident. That becomes because of hard work that this commission has done, what I have tried to do for this community. And that's what this is all about. You can sit that Stein up to, Mr. Jackson. That's what you do. This is what the harassment is all about. This is what stalking is. This is what, you had your chance. This is what stalking is all about. This man is nothing but a stalker. And he has harassed me and my family. You know, I've been elected to serve the people of the city of Tallahassee 3 times, and I intend to continue that election until I make a determination as to whether or not I'm going to leave. Nobody else will make that determination. So I refuse, I want you to know this, I refuse to let this man harass me and my family and preclude me from carrying out my responsibilities as mayor of the city of Tallahassee. And the best approach I can do, make sure that everybody understands that, as far as continue to be mayor and to continue to serve the people in Tallahassee, is you're going to see a lot more of me in the community. I'm around all the time now, but you're going to see a lot more of me in this community. And I'll be staying a lot closer to home. I know there's been some issues regarding travel or some thoughts regarding my travel on behalf of the city of Tallahassee. And believe me, all of it's been done on behalf of the city of Tallahassee, and any recent travel has not been done at any expense of the taxpayers of this community. None whatsoever. I view, quite frankly, these travel, the things that I do, as promoting the economic development of this community, promoting this community, make it what it is, and those things that we just celebrate. That's what I view my job is. And I view my job also as spreading the accomplishments of this city. The fact of the matter is, when I do this traveling, I do it because of the request of other individuals, other cities, other communities to see what we're doing in the city of Tallahassee and how we have done it and our best practices. And not because of something Mr. Jackson has done, because he's a destroyer. He is a destroyer. So, you know, it's been difficult. It's been difficult remaining silent over these periods of time, but you know, that's stopped. And let's understand something. Where the Ethics Commission is right now is not the last step, as he would like for you to believe. It is not. There's more to come, and he knows that, but he will distort the truth, misrepresent what's happening for his own personal vendetta against me. And that it is. It has nothing to do with government, nothing to do with ethics. It's a vendetta that this man has against me. Why? I don't know. But you know what? I have to live with it because he's not going to stop. I'll live with it. He's not going to stop. He's going to continue on. He's going to continue to sit behind the podium so people on TV can see what he's doing. This is calculated. This is calculated. But I'm going to continue, Mr. Jackson. I'll be here. I will be here. You understand that? And Mr. Jackson, you've had 18 months to say what you want to say. 18 months. You had 18 months. Now, I'm proud of my work. Okay, I know. I'm proud of my work as the mayor of the city of Tallahassee. So we've done a great job. I'm proud of the things that I have done. And I can tell you this, I have never, ever taken a vote, cast a vote at this commission with the purpose in mind of my doing anything inappropriate or to give any personal gain whatsoever in any appropriate manner. Never. I'll stop. Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, I have, as I'm sure the rest of the commission does, the deepest sympathy for what your family has had to endure, because it has been significant. But I sit here and I feel pain also for this city, because we did have something unbelievably wonderful to celebrate tonight. And it's this banner over here about the public utility, #1 in America. And it was a wonderful event, and I'm proud of so many people that were here this evening that have been a part of this city and far before me. And I'm sure there are some people there that are going to be in leadership roles in the future. But this is a cloud. And probably in the paper tomorrow, that's not what's going to be written about. It's probably going to be what's going on right now. And we have all been elected with a sacred trust to do the people's work. And I know that's why I'm here, and I know that's why all of us are here. But this is a cloud that needs to move on. And I have sat here to listen to Dr. Jackson's comments for just as long as you have, and they are deeply disturbing to me. But the fact of the matter is, they are affecting the work that we're doing here as a commission, and they are affecting the work that this city is doing. And I urge you to, whatever you do it quickly. Because I think, at least for me, my patience is wearing thin on how this is impacting our government. I know there is due process, and I know this hasn't been fully resolved, but I think you have at your fingertips an opportunity to do whatever you're going to do. And like I said, I urge you to do it sooner than later, because we can't do this for too much longer. We need to be able to move on, as your family does, as you do, Mr. Mayor. And as I said, I'm willing to, as a commissioner, to let this go longer, but as I said, I am losing patience, and I would like a resolution as soon as possible.
I'm not so sure what you mean by a resolution, but I can assure you this. Any kind of a resolution regarding this matter will be something that I will make, and it'll be on my own terms. You know, I guess I'm a little bit disappointed in your comments, Commissioner. I really am, because apparently what you would like to do is deny me the ability to express my side of the story and deny my due process rights by what you're saying. And that's the way I'm taking that. And I am disappointed that you're trying to interfere with my legal ability to address these issues. We're right in the middle of this process. I didn't create this. I didn't create this. You know what? You had an ethics complaint filed against you. And that's what, and you know what the process is. And the only difference is they didn't find probable cause. And I would tell you this, Commissioner, had they found probable cause, I would not in a million years say what you just said. Because that's just not the way we operate. That's not the way our system of justice operate. That's not the way it is. Our system says, our Constitution says, in a criminal prosecution, you can analogize it all if you want to, a man is innocent. A person is innocent until there's proof of guilt. There has not been that. And so I really am disappointed that you now want to rush to judgment, want me to rush to some sort of conclusion because of, and ignore, quite frankly, the burden that is put on me and my family. They come first, and they always will come first. So I will try and conclude it when I can, but not under your terms, okay, Commissioner?
Well, excuse me. I'll give a few thoughts on this, because I think it is kind of important that we say something kind of about this, because it's been out there and in the press and blah, blah, blah. You know, I had said this when this first came out, and I still believe it to this day. I've known John Marks a long time. I do not think, and still don't think, that he would ever intentionally do anything wrong with, you know, regarding anything and regarding this commission. So I felt that before. Nothing's changed in that regard. And also, you know, you get up in this position, and it's you know, it's a lot harder than some people think about trying to keep track of everything that's going on, and sometimes people make mistakes, and I think the mayor has admitted that he made a mistake, and so I don't think it's healthy or even really right to crucify somebody that's, you know, said, hey, I made a mistake. And, you know, along the lines of what he just said, I mean, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. And what we have at this point in all of this is a finding of probable cause, not a determination of guilt. But having said all of that, I don't know if, John, if you remember, or Andrew, when we first got on the commission, our first retreat that we went to, and I made the statement, you know, if the mayor looks good, we all look good. And the converse is also true. And if the mayor looks bad, it you know, it has impact on us up here and the city as a whole. And so, you know, we've kind of been in the position that, you know, what's happened has not made you look good, and it's affected us to some degree. And so I think we're reacting to that. And I, you know, even though it's just finding a probable cause, I mean, at least from what I saw in the paper, your lawyer was saying, well, the most likely thing is that you're going to settle it somehow and it's not going to go to a hearing. And so whatever you do on that is your business. You're right. You figure that out. But I'm just saying that given the circumstances, I would ask you to do kind of what you've indicated, that we really need you to stay close to home and kind of focus on what we're doing. You know, I see less value in the travel than you do. I respect your opinion on that, but I just don't, you know, as a citizen and as somebody that sits up here, I don't really need you to leave town. I mean, the flag can be flown, you know, over the phone or however else, but, you know, it makes it difficult for us when something happens to say, well, the mayor, well, he's gone to so-and-so. And so I just ask you to do what you said you're going to do. I think that would be helpful given where we are. The one other thing that I just wanted to mention, and I don't, you know, I have less, I don't know how to even to say this, with Dr. Jackson, he's a citizen. Everybody's got the right to do what he wants to do. We may like it, not like it, but that's what the process is. And the ethics suggestions, whatever that he produced, I've reviewed just like I would if any other citizen submitted that. And a lot of work and effort went into that. But I've got to say that 90% of it I don't want to do. And the reason is that, I mean, I felt like a lot of those suggestions create kind of a gotcha kind of system where we got this separate board that would set up to kind of review kind of technical, you know, violations. And we really are kind of, I think, by, you know, doing, you know, going to an extreme, and other communities around Florida are either have considered or done this. I mean, you really discourage people from running for office, I think, for good people. I mean, I will be willing to bet anybody in this room that with enough time and effort, I can find a technical violation of any local elected official in the state of Florida. I absolutely promise you I could do that, election-wise or otherwise. And so, not to minimize that, I think the mayor, if he'll permit me to be critical, has been less focused on that than he might have been in this. And so I think the lesson in this is being sloppy hurts, and we can't, you know, we really can't afford to do that. But again, I don't want to create a system where we're, you know, constantly kind of, you know, focused on, you know, nitpicking rather than doing what we are here to do. The allegation that there's some kind of culture of corruption or that the city of Tallahassee is, you know, corrupt is just bunk. It's not. And so, but I think you know, I think all of us could be more focused and tighter, and there might be some improvements that we could do along the way. So,
I hear you loud and clear on the travel piece, okay? Because that obviously has been some concern of the commissioners, and you know, I get that. So I just don't have any travel coming up anyway, except maybe I might go on vacation during the break or something like that. But
no, can't do that.
I can't do that either. well, Commissioner Zipper went on vacation for 23 days, so I suspect that maybe
Mr. Mayor, this isn't about me.
Huh?
This isn't about me.
I know it's not about you, but I'm just saying, you know, Commissioner.
Yeah. You know, it's really painful to sit up and go through this, but it's true that it's also been painful for the last, I guess, 18 months to see this play out in the way that it has. And I think, Mr. Mayor, what is being communicated, and I'll associate myself with this as well, is that everything that you've been going through and that your family, who I have great affection for, have been going through has not happened in isolation. By no means you guys have gotten the biggest brunt of it, but the city has also taken a hit. The reputation of the folks who work here in the city have taken a hit. This commission has taken a hit, and I know that it's probably the last thing you would have hoped for would be for us to have to all sort of carry this burden, you know, and live under this cloud, but we are. And the truth is, and I have been consistent to this point, and I'll remain consistent until this is all said and done, and that is that I think that this process should play its proper course, that you shouldn't be thrown under the bus or indicted for something until an official finding has been made. What my biggest hope is that, and I did read the comment as well from your attorney around the hearing piece. And again, I realize it's not for you to, at this dais, tell us what the strategy is there. You've got to figure that out for yourself. But for the sake of the government, for the sake of all of us who live, operate, and love this city as much as you do, I think we are all encouraging as best as possible quick resolution. And I think you want quick resolution, but I think what you're also saying is you don't want to sacrifice your rights in the process. And in response to that, I would say that they're not only yours, you do have your rights, but the consequences of your rights are shared by all of us and by the government as a whole. And that's been painful. I've, got opponents for re-election who their only real issue is you say nice things about the mayor, and I don't take any of those things back. But if there is anything that we can do at this stage of the process is, now that there has been some determination that maybe an ethics violation has occurred, I think it's in your best interest. It's still yet for you to determine, and certainly in the interest of this government, to move as quickly as possible to a fair and equitable resolution that finally allows this government to begin to heal from what is a problem that, as you said, you did not willingly bring on, but it is one that we've been living with, and that you've been living with. So with that, with that being said, I don't think any of us are intending to make any comments that are intended to hurt you. I certainly am not. At the same token, we all share your sacred trust of being representatives of this government and representatives of the people of Tallahassee. And despite all of our progress and despite all of the good news, we still have been hurting. And I'll stop there.
Commissioner Miller.
Mayor, the comments and the discussion that we're having right now is something that the public expects of us, of the rest of us. I mean, people expect us to acknowledge this process, that it's going on, and to some degree, speak our minds about it. That's not meant to say that I think you misinterpreted Commissioner Gillum's comments, at least from what I heard. That didn't sound like the same thing that what you heard. The problem is that none of this happened. I wasn't here when any of this happened, and my credibility is just as questioned at this point as anybody's, all of us. That's fine. That's our jobs. I mean, that's just part of the job, and I don't have any problem addressing that myself. The point where I reached the tipping point, and I pretty much left this all to you to deal with and let you go through the process, at which I would like to insert one thing. This is, just so everybody's clear, this is the charge. The trial has not occurred. I mean, everybody's acting like there's been some conviction somewhere. Well, that's not the case. The evidence hasn't been heard by the public. The process is just starting, and I want to make that clear to people. I was in Seattle, as you know, accepting the award, and during the time of the news conference, I got a media call from one of the members of our local media who, and I said, ask me about the Parks and Rec budget, which is the last thing I expected to be asked about. And I didn't expect, I didn't expect what she said next. I said, why aren't you at the press event? And she said, well, don't you think that this has been played, that there's just a huge cloud over these awards because of this ethics decision in the past week, and I was absolutely taken aback. That's when I realized that this had all spread over not only to us, not only to the organization, but to the staff. So everybody's work is questioned, and that's when I made a determination to come back here and try to figure out how to get a better handle on that impact that this was having. I would like to ask you to consider balancing some of your responsibilities, and I think that the manager's spoken to you about some of the ways that I think that we could, basically downplay your public exposure to a certain degree. It's a good thing that we are at the break. Everybody will have a break from all of this, and the only reason the travel comes up as a discussion is that that's another place where I hear criticism. That's why everybody's having a comment or an opinion at all about your travel. I doubt at all that you're out there representing our city well, but I woke up one Monday morning and I needed to know where you were. I think we were having a meeting and you weren't there, and I said, "Where's the mayor?" And they told me, and I realized I know where Hillary Clinton is right now, and I don't know where Mayor Marks is. And I would like to ask you to please change that. I'd like for you to share with us when you travel on city business. I'd like for you to share with us and the community where you're going and what you expect to accomplish. And when you come back, I'd like to hear about it. I mean, it would be nice to know. We should all do that. And I think to a certain degree, I don't do very much travel. I want everybody to turn to my budget page and see that my office has spent the least of any of the commissioners, including Commissioner Mushin, this past year, at least so far, year to date. And so that is, I don't travel on behalf of the city as much as you do, but I do believe that it's important to come back and share with the public exactly what you were doing, where you were, and what you accomplished while you were there at the meetings. At these meetings, not through a press event or a press release from your office. So I'd like to ask that of you. Any other ways that you can think of that you can just keep it, I don't know exactly how to put it, other than just to say a little bit less public exposure, because every time you go out in public at this point, the public is just agitated, and that's only making it worse.
Well, I hear everything that all of you are saying, and I'm taking it to heart. I want to let you know that. But I don't think you mean less public exposure, you mean less travel that exposes. I really am going to do more within this city in terms of exposure, in terms of doing things within the city. I think that's what you mean more than anything else, and I hear that.
If that means getting out to community events, then that's probably a good
well,
we can discuss this.
yeah, I attend a lot of community events, and I try and attend as many as I possibly can, and I will continue to do that. I hear what you all are saying, and we will do it. That's all I want to say at this point in time. I will do it. I will attempt to do that just as you said, but I will attempt to do it.
Mayor, just send your wife instead. Just send your wife to all the events instead.
She goes to more events than I
It's
do,
a wonderful,
and she goes as equally as many events as I go to, and which kind of she goes as many events as I go to. She's a wonderful lady. She loves this city. She's a great first lady in this city, and I love her to death. And I'm not going to let anybody, like Mr. Jackson or anybody else, say anything negative about her. And if he does, that's I'm not going to allow that to my family. I don't want to hear from you.
Mr. Mayor.
We're adjourned.
And with these programs, programs, now people will be able to travel. Most people in this building end up having to go back and forth to the Renaissance Center, to Gemini, and sometimes in other areas of town to various meetings. It's great to walk, but you never know if it's going to rain on you on the way. There may be other logistical, you're running late, it takes too long, and so on. And actually, it's a little bit, I've tried